Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 2022 meeting of the Pittsburgh LGBTQIA Plus Commission. I'm Sue Kerr, one of the co-chairs. I'll be facilitating tonight, and we have quorum, so we're going to get started. And we should start with attendance. Billy, would you call roll, or please?
Yes. Kathy Boyle is here. Thank you, Kathy. Nakia Burton Tucker, not here. Denise DeSimone is here. I don't see Jam Hammond yet. I'm here. Sue Kerr is here. Bruce Krause, I don't see Bruce Krause. Britton Malk, I do not see Britton. Maria Montano, I do not see Maria. Lenny Orbovich is here. Richard Parsakian. I saw Richard. There he is. He's still here. Yep. Shantae Porter is not here. Christopher Robinson is here. Marcus Robinson is here. Sarah Rosso is here. And Derek Tynes. I do not see Derek. Guillermo Velasquez is here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your timely participation. And let's move ahead with reviewing and approving the minutes from the August 2022 meeting. Billy?
Yeah, I make a motion to adopt accept the minutes from August. If there's a second, we can discuss it, any corrections, etc.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes from August? Has everyone read them? Any corrections, changes, additions? Okay. All right, well then, let's take a vote on the motion on the floor to accept the minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed or with abstaining? Okay, good. We're moving on. I'm going to try to share my screen. Gosh, I should have prepared for this, but okay. Can you see that okay?
Yep.
Great. Let me get rid of all my 1,000 tabs. Okay, so up first is the various reports from the officers, boards, and standing committees, starting with the co-chairs. The first is the Pirates Quarterly Meeting, and that would be mine area to report on. We have a doodle poll out there to determine some times that work for us. The first round of the suggestions from the Pirates did not work for anyone on our committee, our commission. So they asked us to propose some times and dates. Please, I just resent that link this afternoon, so I'll keep it open till tomorrow afternoon. And so far it's Billy, Lenny, myself, and Kathy have responded, and Richard. So we may just move ahead to get that going. I do want to remind everyone, the way these meetings will be structured is that every time we meet, which should be quarterly, any commissioner can attend. You don't have to be part of a committee or anything like that. So if we get it scheduled and you decide you'd like to be there, that's fine. We just need to know ahead of time. Any questions on that, or comments, feedback? Okay, it's important that we try to get this in so we can have another meeting in December before they go to Florida, because we'll lose some attendees. So even if you can't be there, just please fill out the doodle to let me know that you can't be there, but you're interested, and I'll follow up with an email tomorrow. Okay, all right, moving on. Protect Trans Youth update, also me. Monday was the first Protect Trans Youth Day in the city of Pittsburgh, and we believe it's the first anywhere ever. And that it's the proclamation, which I just sent to you by email, was drafted and drafted by the committee of 3 LGBTQ youth, including trans youth. It's pretty impressive. And I asked them about it, and they said they wanted me to tell you that they would really want you to read it, and they would like people to respond, whether that's a message or a note or something, or just simply picking up one of the things they suggested and running with it. So
How do we respond so they know that?
well, you'll have to respond to me and I'll share it with them,
Okay.
because we are protecting their identity. You could also send it to Lenny. He knows who they are and has access to them as well. We're being very cautious about safety because of the experiences of the O'Donnell Collar family, what happened in court last week, and then also the so-called rally by transphobic extremists who were in Pittsburgh on Friday. So, and the youth are also aware of all that, wanted to be careful. So I also sent you a clip of the, I took a video of their little comments after the proclamation was made. And it's very beautiful. So if you can't read the proclamation, at least watch the video. And if you'd like to be in touch with them directly, I can ask them. Billy, you have your clearances, so that would be okay. So we're trying to be that careful. It's just sad state of things. So, but this is a situation that has spawned a movement, and it's pretty beautiful. The court cases are proceeding. There's this legal maneuver that I had never heard of until this summer called a protection from intimidation order, which is similar to a PFA, but closer to what you might call restraining order, except that it only applies for adults in cases of sexual violence and for minor youth when the adult is not part of their family. So they would not have a PFA. And it's a shame that we haven't known about this before, because I can imagine lots and lots of ways it could have been helpful to people in our community at various times. And so Hugh Lane is leading the legal situation there. So hopefully once their specific case is resolved, we'll be able to maybe get some feedback on how that legal maneuver works and what it entails. Essentially what it's going to do is mean that the neighbor cannot have any contact with anyone living in the household with Kiwan, which is an amazing level of protection, because any move like to talk to her brothers or parents or something would be perceived as an attempt to intimidate her, and that would violate the court order. Isn't that awesome? I mean, it's horrible that people need that, but it's a great tool that we should have. So
I think it would be a good move to have this information on our Facebook or however we want to announce it, so people are aware that this ordinance does exist.
yeah, Sarah, do you have any thoughts on that, on what Nick might be able to do to make that information available? Is Sarah here still? Okay, well, we'll definitely do something along those lines. So, at this point, if anyone wants a sign, we have now ordered 950 signs, which since the middle of June, and not all of them underground, of course, because they haven't all even been printed yet, but we definitely have distributed more than 700. Billy, I hope that yours were received. There's a lot of discussion about that. Apparently they thought you were a corporate entity, which was sort of amusing to me. We have stickers now, and we are moving into the area of pens. The idea is to get this messaging in front of healthcare providers. I consulted a lot of folks about what would be the best tool to use in a healthcare setting, and a really good pen that doesn't break and just simply has that same logo on it seems to be the, what the consensus is. So, we're moving forward with that. And feel free to, if you have any questions right now, if you want to know more about what's happening. There was some concerns about why we had the proclamation issued in a private ceremony. It really was about safety, both in terms of COVID and in terms of what the youth felt comfortable with. They did not want a lot of people that they didn't know or have any connection to. And we had to respect their comfort, of course. So it wasn't an attempt to keep anyone out. Lenny was there. You have any thoughts, Lenny?
I mean, I'll just echo what you said, Sue, about the kids' statements. Like, I mean, that was really powerful. And I mean, the proclamation, while long, is well worth reading, and everybody should. But what the kids had to say about their own experiences and their own feelings about feeling valued and seen, through the city proclamation was really moving.
Thank you.
I do know one of the participants, and it's very beautiful to watch their journey to also empower themselves and their community. So that's all I can share for privacy reasons.
I would like to thank Lenny and then Devin Brown's leadership in bringing PPS staff to the event. One of the youth did not have family who could be there in a supportive role. And so they were surrounded by supportive adults from their everyday life and who were supportive and knew the other youth as well too. So it was, and I had spoken to the fathers who were able to be there, and they made a lot of effort to go up to the other youth and do some dad stuff with them, and to just, and it was wonderful to see how many people turned out and and I want to also tell you, the Comfort Inn Suites on the North Shore, it's a brand new space. Oh my God, it's so nice. The room we were in, and then there's like a terrace and you could look out over the city. I would never have expected that from the North Shore or the Comfort Inn. And so I was pleasantly surprised to see that. So that's a venue we should keep in mind if we need to do something moving forward. They were wonderful there.
Beautiful space.
Yeah,
No doubt.
it was beautiful. It'd be great to watch the fireworks from up there, I think. So okay, so we'll move it on to LGBTQ liaison with the Pittsburgh Police Department. It has Maria, is she here? No? Okay, well, just to revisit this issue, this is a concern that I brought up actually. Commander Eric Holmes has been the liaison for many years and was himself an out gay man, and he left the city. He went to a different police force. And so I had asked that Commander Stan Gregory acting Commander Stan Gregory appoint someone from within the police department to serve in this role, at least in an interim status until there's a new chief. Maria had made some comments about filling this role through the Department of Public Safety, which I think would be fantastic, but it doesn't address the need for there to be an actual police officer. They have access to a lot of information that no civilian can access, not the mayor, no director of public safety, no one. And in cases like the O'Donnell collar situation, if somebody had brought it to their attention months ago, they could have pulled up the pieces and we could have gotten involved sooner. So I think we really should push for that. It's not hiring anyone. It's just, assigning a command staff person they don't have to be part of our community. They just have to be culturally competent. So personally, I think that that's really necessary, and that we should go right to Commander Stan Gregory and ask him for that. But I don't know how you all feel about that. Please respond.
Well, I think we should do that. I think that is clearly in our role. I mean, we exist to make recommendations to council and city agencies and the mayor regarding things that affect LGBTQIA persons, and we should do this.
I agree. I agree with you. I think we should.
Would it be appropriate then for the co-chairs to, you know, collectively send a request to Acting Commander Stan Grecki with this request? Obviously, we can't force him to do anything, but
Are we going to include, excuse me, some expectations of what we hope this position will be responsible for?
that is a very good idea. Because I'm not exactly sure what that position did under previous administration. So perhaps we should have some back and forth by email from anyone who's interested to put that together. Everyone comfortable with taking that up by email, just lay out some general expectations, and then not that it would require a vote, because we're not formalizing that until they make the decision, I guess. Is that a good plan? Okay.
Yep.
I can't see any of you at all, so if all right, well then you know, and if
Why don't we do this? The have the commissioners have the time from now until the 4th of October, which is the day before the next executive committee meeting. And then have an opportunity for input on what would go into a request from a co-chair or the co-chairs to the police leader, and then you would have that input. The co-chairs are empowered to speak on behalf of the commission, and this is an opportunity for the commissioners to have their input prior to a letter sent, but then it could be done, you know, quickly, and would be done before the next regular meeting rather than dragging it for a month.
I think that's a good idea. So everyone who has thoughts on this, please email them to us, the co-chairs at least, or the executive committee before the 4th of October, and we will take it from there. I do want to remind you that if you see a structural piece in the city hierarchy where you think that we should have something similar, make similar recommendations, you know, please feel free to bring that up. That's our role. So, all right, moving on. Meeting with Mayor Gainey. That I think is Marcus. Marcus, are you here?
I am. I do not have much of an update here. From my understanding, the last part of the correspondence was that the administrative assistant for Felicity was going to reach back out to us to schedule something with the main group. And then I know that, and then in that effort, also getting something scheduled with the mayor, but I have not followed up on that since they said they would circle back with us for some potential dates.
So we asked for this meeting almost a year ago in October, when the transition team was loosely forming before the primary, the general election. But then we had our meeting in December. And so we're almost a year down the path since we started out, you know, this dialogue. I mean, any thoughts on that or
I actually did talk to the mayor last Friday. We had a walk through Ellsworth Avenue as part of our business district. And I did bring up the commission's request to have a meeting with him. And he said nobody has reached out to him that he knows of. So I don't know if the communication has gotten lost, or he just needs to be, we have to be a little bit more aggressive in setting this up. And that could be a question for Maria also. So he is aware, through me at least, that we do want to meet with him.
So that would be a little concerning to me, Richard, because because Philip, so, I mean, it was a whole thing, but we went back and forth with the administrative assistant to get this scheduled. And then the dates, we only had a few dates that were pretty like not far in advance. And then when we did try to schedule it with the group, then it became this whole thing. And even that wasn't technically with the mayor, but it was kind of the understanding that I had was that it was in the purpose to get something scheduled with the mayor. So that makes me feel as if something's not being passed along. So I would have a concern, because I think that has been very clear that we would like to meet with him.
I think he has a lot on his plate right now because he's trying to meet with all the neighborhoods and listening to their concerns. But this is something that was promised that we need to keep him to have this commitment to meet with us at least once, the full commission. Has the executive committee met with him at all?
No.
Okay.
The back and forth with the planning seemed to be like almost like a gatekeeping thing that we had to go through the deputy chief of staff to have that meeting first, then to have a meeting with the mayor, which seems very, since 75% of the people on this commission know the mayor by first name, it seems like a lot of hoops to jump through, especially because I think we should remember the mayor's agreed to this in December. This isn't, I mean, I know he's forgotten, he has a lot on his plate, I agree with all that, but this is what isn't out of the blue. So.
But Jake Wheatley was also with him. And the mayor also did have an assistant who was taking notes of all of our concerns, just, for as a business district. So that was, within the notes she was taking. So hopefully this is one of his priorities to understand that commissions need to be listened to.
Well, whatever it is, I think you're right, Richard. We just need to be more aggressive with his schedulers. That's it. We should just pester some more to get this done.
Maybe we should formally ask. We haven't done that. They came to us for this whole individual meeting. It was, Marcus, what do you think about that? About if we just ask the mayor to schedule a meeting and see what happens from.
And her.
Yeah.
I think it's within our right. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So maybe we should go to the mayor scheduler, not the assistant deputy director's scheduler, and let them sort it out on their end, who's going to respond or what that's going to look like. But at the end of the day, we want to sit down with Mayor Gainey.
Yeah, I can take the lead on reaching out to them, and then I'll keep you all looped in. Do we, in terms of this meeting, I don't know if it would be helpful to talk about, what is there a general goal we want out of it, or what's exactly our intentions behind it?
I think we should formulate questions, very specific, so we get right to the point and let him understand that there's a reason why we want to talk to him. And not just have a general meeting.
I think we should consider this, that October is going to be pretty busy for us already. So maybe we should be looking at a November meeting, and then we have time in October to formulate questions. I believe we should report out to the mayor on what we've accomplished really since we began, but particularly this year. And we really need to talk about the budget, our staff person, our designated liaison. I mean, there's some pretty serious issues for us to.
Yes, and so, you mentioned the budget, so I don't really have any updates. This is Guillermo, treasurer. I don't really have any updates for the budget for the same reasons, because we just need to have that kind of level of engagement with his office or whoever is going to be the liaison, the city liaison. I also think it's very important that in all the meetings, we always have a person from the city, whether or not the designated person can attend or not, they can have somebody who can represent them. But I think it's important we do have a person from the city in every meeting.
Does it seem like a good plan, everyone, if we're aiming for November? So that's plenty of time to find a date and time that work.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So how about we kick this back to the executive committee, and for Marcus to follow up on trying to get the meeting set up, and then we can also start discussing what we want to our agenda. Sounds like a good plan to everyone? I don't know if that's official Robert's language, but we were talking the other day about it. Every time we talk about something to do with Mayor Gainey, it always leads into this budget issue where we just keep going in circles because we don't have any answers. And I want to stop very quickly though and go to Billy on the secretary's report, and then come back to the budget issue under treasurer's report. Billy, are you prepared to?
Yeah, this is pretty simple. This is one thing we've had some practice at. This is easy. We have the officers' positions have year-long terms, and they run from January through December. And so in December, annually, there is a selection process for the officers of the commission. We have 6 officer positions, 3 co-chairs, treasurer, secretary, and outreach coordinator. And those terms expire at the end of December. So in December, we would elect, perhaps re-elect 6 commissioners to those positions. So in November, there would need to be a nomination and election committee formed of 2 or 3 at the most would be needed. Commissioners who are ready to do the process in December, but also are available, who are not interested in officer positions and are available to other commissioners to answer questions or talk about the roles of the commissioners, so that someone who might seek a commission officer position would not necessarily go to one of the current officers, particularly if they're going to challenge them. But not that this is a highly competitive group, but the process is there to certainly accommodate, the most considerate methods to select leadership. So this is just an announcement that happens annually, and that people interested, if they're thinking about it, they now have some good notice to think about it. And this report will be in the minutes also, so persons who are not here can read them.
Billy, could you discuss term limits?
There are no term limits in our bylaws. What limits someone to a certain number of terms is voting. If you're voted out, then your term is limited. So there are an officer can run again for the same position for a second or third or fourth term. There are no term limits in our bylaws.
It would be helpful if we've already talked about this with the executive committee, but just in general, is that if someone is going to not run again, that we encourage people to fill that, to run, not only if someone's stepping down, but also especially if someone's stepping down.
Each
Okay.
officer is a 1-year term. Each officer is 1 year.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
all 6 officers are elected annually in December.
So Billy, Guillermo, and myself are in our 3rd term, although the first term was partial. Denise and Marcus are filling out, and Sarah are filling out vacated terms. So that doesn't really matter because there's no limit on how many times you can do that, but just for clarity, because Marcus was on the executive committee and then he moved into a different role on the executive committee, so.
For clarification, are we looking for volunteers for the nomination and election committee in November, or should those of us that want to volunteer contact the chairs ahead of time?
But nothing stops anyone from, putting their name forward earlier, but it needs to be done. The nomination and election committee needs to be seated in November.
Anything else?
I'd
on
be
the-
happy to do it again.
You are the master of the side room, or what do they call it when they move
The
you off?
breakout room, so
Breakout room, yeah. The side room doesn't sound so good.
sounds a little
Side room.
seedy.
Yeah.
Well, Lenny, since you've done it before, I think it'd be great, but it's up to the group, but I think there's not going to be a room full of people banging down the door to rip your job away from you in this regard, and anyone can join the committee, so.
My personal opinion is that I feel like we're just getting started. I think we need to just, in my opinion, stay as is for another year, because there's a lot of things in process and in motion that I think it would just set us back having to regroup and, just transition. So just my opinion.
I agree. I think that's a really excellent idea.
Well, thank you both for your vote of confidence in all of us. That's very important. I do want to encourage, though, anyone who is interested to please consider, because someone may not run again. So if we may have some vacancies, I'm not being vague on purpose. I just don't know who's going to run and who's not. So, all right. So can we move on? Everyone okay on this topic? All right. So let's get back to the budget. So, Billy, did you get a call about this?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we, had a conversation with Bruce Krause, and we told him about the concerns about how our allotment was budgeted, what it was for, the different pieces of information we've had. And he was going to get some information for us in terms of the legislative process and the budgeting. And I guess I haven't heard from him, so I assume that there's not a response yet, but city council's looking into that to try to clarify for us what actually happened with the budget. And we asked about what's going to be in the budget for us for next year, which is something we need to discuss as a group. I want to take a moment here to just remind everyone of a point that I think it's really important. We do not serve just the mayor. We are not the mayor's advisory committee. We serve the residents of the city of Pittsburgh, LGBTQIA, and the rest of them. And we serve 2 branches of
Can I
government,
go on the porch?
the executive and the legislative, or the administrative and the legislative. And so I think it's
Sure.
really important that we also look to our relationships with city council in many ways. This is a really good one, because there's some breakdown in communication in what happened. the legislators were all still there when the budget was approved the first time and this recent year. So I think we need to be careful and that we're leaning into working with all of the people who are supposed to be serving us as we fulfill our role. And that's not just the mayor's office. No disrespect to the mayor intended, but we've reached a quagmire there on this budget issue. So let's go. Maybe we should go to city council and get some answers. Guillermo, I'll kick it back to you. I'm sorry. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this before the meeting, but.
That's okay. We just gave the update because I don't have any other updates other than that. I reached out to Maria today. It was a little late, but was trying to connect with her. I did not know that she was not going to be in the meeting. So I think what has been presented by Sue, it's an update of what's happening. It's a matter that we all are trying to resolve. And the good thing is that we are taking different points of action to address it. And hopefully we have something, some kind of progress and a resolution to all this with respect to the budget.
We also need to talk about what we think the budget should be for the next year. And what are we looking for? There's no reason we can't ask for what we think is needed. Not that we're going to get it all, but we part of our responsibility is to advocate. So we've discussed wanting to have at least a half-time staff person, maybe shared with the Gender Equity Commission. That's a funded position. We've certainly talked about having money for outreach for lots of different things. I'm going to present something tonight where we need $100 for. Guillermo, how do you think we should go about?
We also talk about allocation for events in marketing, obviously. A lot of that on social media. Inform the people that we what the commission is doing, because a lot of people don't know about that. So that's, I think a lot of the money is gonna have to be spent in these areas. And we had one meeting back in 3 or 4 months ago, and I shared that preliminary discussion of that happened between Sarah and I, and I can share it again with the whole group. I don't have it right now in front of me, although I can look at it if you give me some time, if you want to see it, but I'll be happy to share with you again, now or later.
My suggestion would be that we take some time in our October meeting to talk about the budget. When's the vote on the budget? Just no one here knows. We need to.
Well, last year they had a vote in November, at the end, sometime in November.
So we probably need to start sooner then. Perhaps we need a budget committee to make some recommendations and everyone can weigh in on what that looks like. Because a budget is a wish list, right? When you propose it, it's not, we don't know what the guaranteed outcomes will be.
No, I agree with that. I think that we should have a budget committee meeting separate from our regular meeting that really does put together a concrete plan on that when we do have access to the funds that either have been or should have been and certainly will become available to this commission, that we begin to utilize them for the purposes that we are here. And we should be ready for that when it happens, because I'm expecting that it may happen, in the coming months. Finally, I think we are going to break this logjam on how this commission has been supported, and we should be ready for it. So, and it's also more appropriate for a separate committee to do the work and then bring the results of that work to a regular meeting rather than doing the work at the regular meeting. The regular meeting adopts or rejects what committees do, and we should do that work separately.
Is anyone interested in working on a budget committee? willing to do that? I know it's exciting. You all sound really,
I'd be willing to.
and perhaps we can invite some of our commissioners who are not here tonight to be part of that. I think,
Yeah, I can help.
I'd participate too.
you both sound so enthusiastic.
And you have the work that Guillermo led already on
Yes,
the initiative, and we have the goals that, Denise led in the goal setting. So the combination of those two things, should produce some things that we want to get done, whether it's a tangible document to communicate or paying for assistance with a website that is really,
Mhm.
well built and doing, although the city should do that, but I'm not sure they would. We might need a consultant on that, but whatever it is, we should do that, or an event, an event where the community can actually meet us and that we can listen to them, things like that. But whatever they are, I think we have the beginnings of solidifying it, tangible things that would cost money in order to make happen. I also do want to say, the Gender Equity Commission, its sort of cornerstone accomplishment have been certainly that one very large report on the disparities in many areas based on gender and race in the city of Pittsburgh. And that report has been used in many ways to support change, and also to inform citizens of Pittsburgh about the just absolutely terrible situation that women of color and women in general experience in Pittsburgh because of economic disparities and others. So there could be and should be an equivalent at some point, I think, in our history, some type of report where we really do have a broad scope picture of what it means to be queer in Pittsburgh, and and disaggregated into different identities too, because of the complexity of our community. Because something like that has great longevity in terms of being a historical marker that can be looked back on and measure, and progress can be measured against. The School of Social Work does tremendous research on this at the University of Pittsburgh. And I think that we should think about some sort of, keystone document like that for our commission. That costs money because it involves social scientists to do the research.
I do have the document that we have worked on so far on my screen. If you'd like me to share it with you, I can. It's up to you.
well, where are we time-wise? We got about 40 minutes left. Do you think maybe we could do that next month? I know this is important. I don't want to cut it off, but I also want to get to the other issues that we need to do. So,
Let's set a budget committee date.
yeah, let's do that.
Do that there.
I think it makes a lot of sense, especially for Denise to plug into that, because she's overseeing most of the programming that we'll be doing or is informed about it. So I think that Guillermo and Denise and Lenny are a good team. Lenny can fund that breakout room, get some snacks in there. And sorry, a little levity. Guillermo, when would you like to propose to meet?
I'll reach out to them and we can coordinate a meeting.
Billy, anything else?
That's great.
Okay. Look at us moving ahead. Okay. How do I get this to go down? Oh, for God's sake. For someone who's a blogger for all these years, you think I would be better at this. Okay. Outreach coordinators report. Let's go to Denise. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about here. So go ahead, Denise, bring it up.
Yeah. So one thing that I think everybody has is the first draft of a social media policy. And I think 1 and 2, I think subjects 1 and 2 kind of go hand in hand. So after a lot of, research and reviewing what the legal opinion is with the city, there are a lot of restrictions as far as, what we can say, document retention. If we allow it to be an open forum. And, we would have to clearly understand what is first, what is freedom of speech and what is not freedom of speech. And, I believe our best avenue forward with this Facebook page is to allow it to be just an informational page where people aren't posting comments and we're not monitoring these comments, because I think, number one, we get into a lot of gray area. And 2, I think that it's just, I don't think we have the manpower to man this thing and to respond appropriately. And I personally, I wouldn't want to respond in a way that was negative or wrong. So if you read the social media policy, that policy is a general policy, not with making the assumption that it's going to be just an informational page.
So Denise, you're talking about the Facebook page for the commission specifically.
Specifically.
It would not be an interactive discussion, what
No.
people might normally expect from a
Not really, not an open forum. So where
Okay.
people are interactive and we're obligated to respond, and we're obligated to respond in a specific way. And I think it's best for us at this point to just have it as informational. So if you need help with this, here's a link, and being a page where to provide, news and events and articles and things that are relevant to the community, but, not having the ability to interact and post and things like that.
This, to clarify for everyone, the law department has been working for several years on coming up with a universal policy for all commissions. And it's kind of been ad hoc until now. And the conversations that Marcus and I had with them, I think pushed them to take more direct action, because, free speech is a very important right for our community, for anyone. And it is definitely going to be time consuming to manage a Facebook page, no matter what we do, even if it's just informational. So we have to look at, not what we want it to be, but we have to be clear about the realities of the landscape that we're in right now.
Well, why don't we put this in the form of a motion and then have it second? We could do a discussion and then adopt or reject something. So having said that, I move that our Facebook page be converted to an informational only type Facebook page.
Second.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Does everyone understand what that's going to mean? Would you like some clarification?
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
If somebody from the community wanted to, let's say, share some kind of post, would we have a moderator that would approve some posting that would be something for the community?
I think that's a good question, Richard. I think if there's there should be a form or a way for them to get it to us, and we can decide whether it's informational, whether it's appropriate, and then we can post it.
Mhm.
because I think one of the things that's clear is if you allow one person to post, you have to allow everybody to post. And I think that's the concern, is that, you know, like Sue said, I mean, it's not just the manpower, it's really having a clear understanding of First Amendment rights that, are not First Amendment rights. I just, I wouldn't feel comfortable making that decision.
We also talked about leaning into the existing resources. Something I said I would do is put a complete list of all the existing Facebook groups where people can interact back and forth. And we can share that on a regular basis to remind people, here's where you can go to build community, here's where you can go to have the kind of that sort of chatty experience. And then we're not, we can just keep adding to it as new groups arise, and we're not playing favorites, we're not picking, prioritizing anyone's group, but just making that information available.
And what I think we could do is we could put a content, a social calendar, and, we could populate it. I could populate it with some, articles and things like that. And then if there's something that somebody wants to add to it, we can just get it kind of in the rotation.
I think it's important that the community actually visit the Facebook page. So it has to be very active. I've been involved with organizations where they have not changed the post in 2 years. So, and the reason we want this to be visited as much as possible, we need to be able to have updated information that the community wants to look at. That maybe it's I don't want to say we have to be very careful, like what events we support or want to share information about. I mean, we get into a lot of fine tuning of what we really want to say, but I think it needs to be as interactive as possible without having the community make comments. That becomes a very dangerous wormhole, especially if we have people that have a disagreement, let's say, with our community. So that's why I cannot say that word. Monitoring the content would be very important. And I think this is what you're talking about. But I also want to have some kind of interactive section where we can decide, or somebody can decide what can be put on the community calendar, that's essentially, or information.
Well, but the thing we have to keep in mind, though, is that all of that takes a lot of time, because you have to receive it, process it, confirm it, and then post it. And it's,
I agree.
So I think that's a good goal, but I think what we should start out with is sharing our information. And and as people are willing to step up and assist with content creation and moderation, then we could certainly expand it. But
so start out simple right now, and then maybe move on in the future in another additional way. So I can live with that.
Yeah, I don't think anything's off the table, but we just have the joint challenges of complying with our role as a governmental body and all these pieces that we have to comply with. Because this is the other piece, Richard. People may not know that what they share with us automatically becomes public information and subject to the Sunshine Laws or Freedom of Information Act. And if we tell them after they've contacted us, they can't retract it. I mean, it's too late. So we have to be careful that people understand, that we're not creating more conflict for somebody who's in a stressful or terrible situation, and doesn't necessarily want the Post Gazette to be able to subpoena their email to us. So,
So I think there needs to be some kind of disclaimer on the Facebook page saying, you know,
there
what
will,
it's
but
all
people won't read. I mean, most people don't realize how all that stuff works. And even when they do, when they're upset or they're looking for help or they're stressed or anxious, they're definitely not paying attention to the fine point. So we have to kind of think for them in that sense and make sure that they're not putting themselves in a bad position.
but legally, probably that needs to be put somewhere.
The city's policy will tell us everything we have to have on the page for,
Okay.
yeah. So any further discussion on this topic? Everyone has read the social media policy, hopefully, that you're about to vote on?
Well, the motion is only that the Facebook page is
Okay, so
informational.
okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we've had some discussion, ready to vote? All right, all in favor of this motion of making the Facebook page for our commission an announcement only?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I say aye too. Okay, it's passed unanimously. Then we have the matter of the social media policy. Denise, do you want to pick up with that? The larger policy?
Yeah, I sent out a revision 1. If anybody has some feedback, I pulled a couple different policies from different organizations that I felt were similar to ours and tried to condense it. Marcus, thank you for the help that you gave me with some information, and I don't think it's overboard, and I don't think it doesn't cover the important parts. So any feedback is welcome. I'm definitely not a policy writer. So, any comments that you guys have, I'd love to hear them.
Billy, do we need a motion before we go to discussion?
Well, I think that all depends on whether Denise wants to adopt this tonight. But that could be done that way, because it could also just be moved that there be time for further feedback. Either way, I mean, it's fine just to have a general discussion on it right now. It depends on what Denise wants to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to understand if people have any feedback. And if that answers no, I'd say let's adopt it.
Well, I have some feedback and some questions. I'm a little concerned about it being 6:34 and doing this. So I regret I haven't emailed you comments on it earlier. But
Okay, well, then let's just get some feedback and we can do it next time.
okay, then let me I'll just some of the policies seem to be unclear to me, because it seemed to imply that if one of the commissioners, although I'm not necessarily against being well behaved in all areas of our lives, but it does seem that some of this seemed to extend beyond just commenting or just posting something on commission social media or websites, or when we're in a place where we're acting as commissioner, but that we might need to do disclaimers when we're just on our own social media page. So it just read to me a little bit unclear in that regard in some places. So I don't know what the scope of it always is. It also in section 4, it referred to the anti-bullying and sexual harassment policies. And I don't know specifically what those documents are regarding us. So that I was unsure of. Then the statement on page 2 of 3 near the top, not represent or communicate on behalf of the commission in public domain without prior approval from the city of Pittsburgh. And that seemed to be an odd statement to me. We have our bylaws around that our co-chairs are spokespersons, but that certainly commissioners can comment on things and promulgate things that are already adopted policies or positions of the commission and need to get the city's approval.
Yeah, why don't we just reconvene, because there's a, we could set up a time or we can go through this, because there was a couple policies that explained why they were written that way. So I can go over that.
Okay, well, I'll hold my last couple things too, but yeah, I'll certainly make an effort to attend whatever meeting you set up to do it. I am sort of a policy writer. That's part of my job.
That's
So
great.
interested in some of the details.
And I do think it's important. Yeah, I will be there too, because there's a whole range of policy about our personal interactions, our personal, the way that we present ourselves as commissioners in our official capacity. And then the content that we're creating on behalf of the commission. So I saw some of that too, and I was a little bit like concerned that might be a little bit, it is too controlling, I think, for what I can do on my own social media because I serve on the commission. So I'd like to get into that too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
It's a good start. It's a good.
I thought the same thing, honestly, but I was, again, I'm not a policy writer, so I was looking at as many examples, and when they all had the same thing, I thought, well, maybe I better at least put it in there. So, yeah, I'll set something up for whoever wants to join.
And please, everyone, I know we send you stuff and ask you to read it, but it is really important. If it's just Billy, me, and Denise reading stuff and making decisions, we can't control that, but we're not representing the community. And I know that you have a lot on your plate, but like, please, maybe set some time aside in your schedule to read through these different things that are part of our shared commitment as commissioners to be aware of. So, all right. Anything else, Denise? Is that?
No, I think I've taken up a good bit of time.
It's important though. I mean, we're making progress on this. That's good. The next is the Municipal Ordinances Working Group, which is, surprise me and Lenny. We have made progress. We are looking at doing roughly I'm saying 2 hour, but it probably will be more like 90 minutes plus miscellaneous chit chat online training on the topic of how to pass a municipal ordinance, the non-discrimination ordinance. We're going to focus on areas around here, but it would be applicable statewide, because all of these bodies, whether they're a municipality or a city or whatever, they all have the same rules from the state. So we're looking at October 26th. That is when our two anchors, which is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Youth Commission, who does the training, will be available. And then Billy Heilman, who lived this. And I'm not laughing in jest, because I really think seriously that, that Billy has some incredible stories to help us remember what we have done and what we can still continue to do, and going back 30, 40 years in this regard. So they're committed. So please mark your calendars. If you're free that night, we really like to see you. We're working on bringing in other speakers. Have one of Lenny's coworkers, Julie, who tried unsuccessfully to get this sort of ordinance passed in Peters Township and is going to talk about what not to do or what to be expected. We're really hoping to come out of this with a good like plan for people, so that they can just literally go back to their own community and get the ball rolling, based on the various experiences that we have. So this is incredibly important work. There was just an article this week in the Penn Capital Star about how Pennsylvania does not have a statewide non-discrimination ordinance. That is not going to change anytime soon, but the local ordinances can really be impactful. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, we're going to need a couple people to help with, like, maybe Denise, you could help with us with this. Is like Marcus gatekeeping the comments and the attendees and all that sort of thing. So and I did want to ask for a vote. The Pennsylvania Youth Congress has asked for $100 stipend to cover being there virtually, but also because they have worked on this presentation, and they will be providing it to everybody. So I think that's a pretty reasonable amount of money to ask. So, but we need, we don't really have a policy on how we request money. So I'm going to ask Lenny, would you mind making that motion, since I'm chairing, that we authorize $100 for that purpose?
I make a motion that we authorize the payment of $100 to the Pennsylvania Youth Congress for the fee of our ordinance passing training.
Can I ask, like, where that money will come from if we don't have a budget?
Well,
Before you ask, you get a second.
wait, we get a
Thank
second. Who's seconding?
I'll second.
Denise second. Okay, go ahead, Richard, ask.
Where will that money come from, since we do not have a formal budget?
So I've asked Maria, just in a broad sense, like, how do we get money, that whether we have money or not, but I already spoke with Bruce about this, and he said that his office will pay the $100 if we can't get it from the city. Because my concern also was getting it in a timely manner for these students, for whatever their budget is. So, and
I have no issue. I have no issue. It's just that as a formality, we need to know for the future that this is one of the budget committee will look at this and say, this is a reason why we need
Right.
such and such money.
Guillermo, is this something that you could bring up in your committee, to both in terms of a process and also going to the city saying, we really need to know now, how do we get our $100?
Okay,
Great. I know the city can take 3-4 months to pay things. So
yeah.
I really hope that's not the case here, but we have no way of knowing. So, okay, great.
Well,
Any
I-
questions? Go ahead.
Well, I have seen happening in some of the projects that I have been involved with the city. Sometimes the people or the group that is involved, they pay for something and they get reimbursed later.
Well,
I only mention that because we have served as a fiscal agent in some projects, and it can take up to a month to 3 months before that person can get reimbursed.
well, I think that since Bruce has offered to cover it, if the administration will not cover it, perhaps we could ask Bruce. I mean, if he requested the money now, it would be there in a reasonable amount of time. Does that seem like a good plan to? Maybe Guillermo, is that something you could talk to Bruce about and then talk to Maria about? And
Yes, I can talk to him, but if he already offered the money, I think we should take it.
Right, right.
We should
Yeah,
just
I agree.
accept it. We should just accept it and not complicate things.
and let him go get the money back if he needs it. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Guillermo, could you contact Bruce? Do you have his email? And
I
and
will
see,
look for it, or I will reach out.
or we'll
to
send
him
it to you. Yeah.
and-
But I think this should go through the treasurer making the request for the check, and I'll talk to you about
Yes,
who they want it made out to and all that sort of thing. So,
We can take a while.
we just spent $100, y'all. How about that?
You still have to
That we-
vote on the motion.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, great. Moving on. Plumbing code. Marcus, do you have any update from that? Were you going to talk to? I forget. Was that you that was going to follow up on that? Marcus might be on a dog run. So let's go on to the monkeypox statement. We'll come back to plumbing. Billy wrote a statement, a very powerful statement about monkeypox. Just yesterday, I believe we had the first fatality in the United States from monkeypox. Or no, was it reinfection and then fatality? I don't know the specifics, but has everyone read the monkeypox statement?
Yeah.
Should we bring it up on the screen?
I've read it.
Yeah.
I
read it.
have just one small edit in the statistic section to change American Indian to Native American and Native Alaskan. The 1%.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I was following what, the census, because I took the statistics from the census the way that they had
Yeah.
identified, but that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this statement on behalf of the commission on the topic of the monkeypox impact on our LGBT community?
I move that we adopt the monkeypox statement as written.
Second,
With the edit,
Sorry.
that small edit.
As amended.
as amended.
Apologize, correct.
Is that a second, Richard?
Yes.
Okay, second. All right, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I-
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great. We've approved this statement. We will distribute it. We will go to Maria and ask her to distribute it on behalf of the commission. And
And we'll also send it to the city clerk and ask the city clerk to distribute it to the council members.
yes, we just learned that's a thing we can do.
Yes.
So that's
It's a thing.
it's a thing. And we should talk about monkeypox probably a little bit more when we have some more, in time as a the impact it's having on Pittsburgh, but we definitely need to move on. So, okay. Marcus, are you back?
I am, yes.
Okay. Plumbing code. Which way?
I do not actually, either way, I did not have an update here, actually.
Great. Then that keeps us short and sweet and to the point, so we can move on. We'll talk about that next month. How to connect community organizations to culturally competent LGBTQIA resources. I remember this conversation. We were talking about our role as a facilitating interactions between the public, LGBTQ organizations, and then the larger community. And Guillermo had that, is right. Guillermo brought something to our attention about a request that he had received. Do you want to, can you do like 2 or 3 minutes on that, Guillermo?
Yes, sure. We are trying to address an issue that has come out in the Hispanic community with respect to teenage members of the community, where they're trying to see what we can do, how they can get advice, or how they can get help. Simply because in our culture, we sometimes people are coming from different countries that have grew up in different places, and the topic of being LGBTQIA plus may be interpreted as something diabolic, or something from that is not right to address it that way. So so we would like to be able to do something to that effect, whether it's going to have some kind of conversations with the teenage members, or also with parents at a community level or so. We don't know yet, but so that's where we are now.
So the question for us, and we may just have to revisit this in October, is how we make referrals when we have a specific request like this, who we're going to refer to, brings up a lot of issues. Kathy, you're not on mute. There you go. Certainly, you know, many of the groups represented on the commission probably could weigh in on some of this, but so we need to address the specific request here, as well as talk about how we're going to make referrals. Unfortunately, you know, our community isn't united. I don't know if that's unfortunate or not, but sometimes, you know, we want to make sure that we're being fair and balanced and doing our job. So does anybody have suggestions on the resources that might address Guillermo's specific request around cultural competency and LGBTQ identity within the, I believe you said Hispanic community specifically? I don't want to say, you know, use a different term. So is that something Hugh Lane can work on, or do you have those tools? Or
I think that that's something that we can get at with our collaborators. You know, we know that we can't do everything. And so we've established some partnerships with Journey and CASA specifically in this area, Guillermo. So I'm happy to follow up with you and just get a little bit, I have to say, I'm not sure exactly how to refer you or give you some information, but I know that there's a couple of programs that are happening. We can either serve as a connector, or we can help explain sort of how we run programs collaboratively, and then talk about Arise, which might be another program that's of interest for youth as well, who it's largely a youth immigrant and international activity and subgroup. So happy to provide context there. And while I'm at it, I thought just generally sort of speaking to this issue, I think, you know, one of the challenges here is that every LGBTQ organization in Pittsburgh at some point in time has attempted to create an exhaustive resource list. And that's something that is labor intensive and always needs updated. And what's culturally competent to me and you might be two very different things. And I think as commissioners, we have a duty to share information that we know exists. And there's going to be lots of things that we don't necessarily know exist. So I think my recommendation would not be for us to try to duplicate. I'm not saying that that's what's on the table, but I would not recommend that we try to duplicate efforts that other organizations have been working at for years, but simply when people reach out to us as a point of referral, which isn't going to be all the time and not everyone, that we do our best to connect with one another to find as many resources that seem like they would be a good fit and allow that person choice in terms of like what might make the most sense for them based on whatever factors are most important, where they live, what availability those providers have, and so on. I know that that's really vague, but that's how I tend to try to approach things when we work with large groups of parents and caregivers across all of Allegheny County.
Yes, no, thank you. And I understand that is the case. And, you know, we're also here to help to address language or cultural balance. I think that will be our contribution, ours and obviously any of the other Latino organizations.
I believe that our concern here was not creating a resource list so much as what is our process when someone raises something. I think internally, it would be perfectly appropriate to throw it into the email to say, I'm looking for, like in Gamera's case, just because it's a concrete example, to say, someone asked me for this, does anyone have any suggestions? Like, that's okay to do, and people shouldn't hold back, because that's helping people in the community, which is why we're here. So, and then looking at ways when we received inquiries, maybe through our email or Facebook or just privately, the O'Donnell Collar family came to Lenny's attention through someone that he knew, and he brought it to us. And so I agree. Options are good. Creating yet another community calendar resource list is not a great endeavor. So, which leads us into the issue of LGBTQIA History Month and other LGBTQIA. We're talking about visibility days, awareness days, not talking about creating a calendar of our own, like creating a calendar for us to reference. There's so many visibility days that we thought, and we've just created a new one with Protect Trans Youth Day. So we could potentially create a Google Calendar and plug in the days that we know of, not the events, not fundraisers and things like that, but actually, like, do people know that there's such a thing as Pronouns Day in October? And just to have that in one central space. We don't have like a motion on this or anything right now. It's just more of a general new topic to bring up. October is so packed with days of the month. I can tell you personally that if you're curious about it, I would just go to Wikipedia and type in LGBT awareness days, and you'll pull up an international calendar. And it's Wikipedia, it has its pros and cons, but it is pretty helpful. But October is just jam-packed. I think there's like 14 different things happening in that month that but it's great. It's great to see so much like diversity and how we take a moment to celebrate people. I want to acknowledge that we're coming up next week on Bisexual Awareness, Bi Visibility Day, Bi Visibility Week in some cases. It's the 22nd, I believe, 22nd, 23rd. We probably should make a little statement about that. It's very important. Bi community is vastly neglected in our community, not just Pittsburgh, but across the country. So but we'll keep moving because we got to get some other stuff done. Any comments on that? Questions? We don't have a movement, but a motion. Okay, local legislative policy update on anti-LGBTQIA actions. In the state, on the state level, there are still 3 active pieces of legislation: a library book banning bill, a Don't Say Gay bill, and I'm so sorry, I don't have the third one at the tip of my tongue.
Transports.
No, that was already.
That was already vetoed. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the only one that was vetoed. It passed, it vetoed, and so it's dead. The session ends this year, so they'll have to start over in January with the new newly seated members of the General Assembly and the Pennsylvania Senate. I'm sure all of these will be back, and hopefully we can be prepared to engage them. We are seeing school districts. Is it Hempfield, I believe, in Westmoreland County, passed a policy this spring after the governor vetoed this bill that would change basically you can't play in their school. So they would not allow trans kids to play on the team that they want to play on, and which is heinous. And my contacts at PFLAG told me that this is just going to keep happening especially in the rural community. So we should definitely pay attention to that, and maybe
it is permissible by the PIAA rules. The PIAA puts the decisions on this issue to the individual districts. So if Hempfield were to pass such an ordinance, or such a restriction, they're within their rights. So.
But I
no
understand that.
doubt, I think you're right. So I think we will see more and more of it.
Well, I understand from PFLAG, and again, I haven't looked at it too closely, is that the way the league rules right now, it's up to the superintendent or the principals. And they're making decisions based on the realities of their students, as they do with other things that they're entrusted to do. This is the school board making a general policy that has nothing to do with the individual needs of the teams or the players themselves. So it's really taking power away from, they have the right to pass that policy, but the way the league has it right. Am I right about that? That.
So again, it's going to be up to every individual school district how they set their athletic rules. But if it is a district that permits the school board to make those decisions, then yes, they are within their rights to do so. As absurd as that may be, the PIAA has really punted this to the individual districts, and the individual PIAA districts and even the individual school districts themselves, and even really down to the high school level, or I guess at all levels, not just high school. But yeah, in the absence of a law that is going to prevent districts from doing that, which we're never going to, is never going to happen. Yeah, what Hempfield did is kosher.
So maybe any sort of advocacy we're looking at would be at the level of the PIA. I can't ever say that. PIA, that entity itself.
So it would be possible for the PIAA to take a stand,
right?
But they have not been willing to do so far. And don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
Speaking as a high school coach, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So what we also have to pay attention to is what impact this is having on our kids, and what is there something we could do to bolster them or offset this, or I don't know any other legislative issues. Billy, are you aware of anything? I know we're getting close. We're over. Forgive me. It's no. Okay, that's quick. Okay. Hispanic Heritage Month starts today, September 15th through October 15th. We want to make sure that we acknowledge that. All these announcements are going to drag us into, we're not going to have enough time to do what we should do. Remembering Tony Silvestri. We also had other deaths of noted members of our community in the last month. It's just been really very sad. Maggie Ritchie. I can't think of their names off the top of my head. And maybe at the beginning of next month, we should take a minute to just, Tony Silvestri, is a monumental impact in our community, but at the same time, so are those other people who deserve the attention, and so does Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're out of time. So I don't want to shortchange anyone. So, but Richard, is that okay with you if we just maybe talk about that in October?
Yes, because there are very important people in our community, and we don't want to skip over it lightly.
Right.
Because it was a huge impact. So
I agree. I think maybe we need to look at how we're going to do this moving forward so that it's respectful but yet efficient. So and Hispanic Heritage Month goes into October. We'll have a chance in October to discuss that. I think it's really important, given the comments that Guillermo brought up before, that we do that. Do we have any other announcements? No. Ooh, that was a sign that we should leave now. All right, well, it's been a very busy meeting. We got a lot done. I'm so glad that we had this time together, and I hope that we'll see everybody back in October, and we'll see you at these different events. And I really appreciate all of you. And I guess I'll see you in email. Any other comments before I hit? Oh, I'm just going to leave. So can you? I'm really tired.
Just want to say happy Roberto Clemente Day to everyone.
Yes,
It's
indeed.
Roberto Clemente Day.
Yes, it is.
So Hispanic Heritage Month starts out on Roberto Clemente Day. How cool is that?
this is the 50th anniversary of his passing.
Wow. It's the 50th.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, it's fine.
It's the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception in December. Can you believe that? It's just like, and they're playing that same team, so that's pretty cool. I'm sure they did that on purpose, obviously, but any other comments?
It is also the celebration of independence of Mexico and several Central American countries and Chile.
This is so great to learn all this stuff. I really wish we had more time to talk about it, but please feel free to email all of us with information, you know, because we can then share it. Just make sure we know that we can. And I think that's really important. So I want to prepare you. October 22nd is my birthday. So I will be accepting lots of gifts and cat food, please. And I'm really tired and my wife isn't here to rein me in. So, all right, I'm going to go. Good night, everyone. I will see you on Facebook, and thanks for a really productive meeting.
Thanks, everyone.